Hi, you're watching Scroll's long form interview podcast, Scroll Ideas, with me, Shoaib Daniyal. Manifestos are usually something that almost no one reads, but it's a bit different this time. The Congress manifesto is creating headlines. A few days back, Mr. Modi connected the manifesto and accused it of distributing wealth to Muslims, a point that many fact checkers have said is untrue. Many other critics have also said that the Congress manifesto is a bit too radically socialist. It's distributing wealth and is being a bit too focused on equity. To discuss all of that and to unpack the Congress manifesto, we have with us Praveen Chakravarty, a key member of the manifesto committee. Hi, Praveen.
Hi.
Um, so I think we all know what Mr. Modi said was not factually true. I think there is no proposal in the manifesto, I've gone through it, of distributing wealth to Muslims. Do you want to unpack, though, why he did that as a politician? Why do you think he took this line of attack?
The motive behind Mr. Modi's lies, So that's a good start. Not sure if one needs to ascribe motives. I think it's fairly obvious. See, I'll tell you what. I mean, one is there are lots of things that are wrong. One is it's a lie. So can the Prime Minister of India lie to the people of India so blatantly? I think there we're just at the very normal level there when we just ask these sorts of questions. The second is, what is the lie? The lie is about inciting through false propaganda an attempt to incite fear. So it's not just any lie, it's an attempt to incite fear. Now the fear about what? So the fear is about my property losing my property. And then the final, the real horrible part of this is leverage that fear and tell them you're not just losing your property, you're actually losing it to the other community. Othering of the community, which is the communal tension part. And this sort of combination of lies and propaganda is actually extraordinarily irresponsible, of course, dangerous. To the point that I will ask, is Mr. Modi truly a lover of India? No one who loves his country will want tension in this country. So why go to such an extent on a lie?
So, I think a lot of fact checkers have said that there is nothing on redistribution to Muslims in the manifesto. In fact, as some fact checkers have also said, there's nothing on redistribution in the manifesto itself. The word does not feature in the manifesto. However, on April 6th, Mr. Rahul Gandhi did mention the word redistribution at a rally in Hyderabad. What's your take on that? Is redistribution completely off the table? Why is and if it is off the table, why is Mr. Gandhi mentioning it?
What is redistribution? I mean, what is redistribution? So let me ask some simple question. What's the point of government? What's the point of a democratic government? When Mr. Modi proudly claims that they are giving free food to 80 crore families in India, who's paying for that? Is that redistribution or not? When we say that we will have affirmative action, we will have reservations, is that redistribution or not? Aren't we redistributing resources? When this government again proudly claimed that they passed a women's reservation bill, though what they didn't say was it was not going to come into effect before 2029. But when they claim that, is that redistribution or not? And any democratic government does precisely that, which is to ensure that there is harmony or equitable development and equity in their country and society. And to that extent, there is realignment, redistribution, reallocation of resources that every government in the world does. The insinuation here is not redistribution. So I don't think redistribution is a bad word. Mr. Modi's government does it, every democratic government does it, and every morally just government would aspire to do it.
So rather than shy away from the word, you're saying the Congress is going to own redistribution. It is part of what the government should do, and if the Congress were to be in power, it would also do it.
It's nyay.
Right.
It's justice. We're calling it nyay patra.
Right.
Justice. What's the idea of justice? The idea of justice is, why should some people be left behind? It's unfair. The question is not whether we should aspire for a just society. I don't think anybody will disagree. Okay? The insinuation here is that the Congress party will appropriate, will seize private property, private wealth, apparently gold and Mangal Sutra even, of people, and redistribute it to others. And that is absolutely ludicrous and laughable. A, the Congress party never said it, but B, I think the larger question I'm asking is, are we still a constitutional republic or no? If we are, which government can go into someone's home and say, I'm taking away your gold, I'm taking away your watches and your television sets and your land and giving it off to somebody else? That is completely bizarre and laughable. But it's no laughing matter. I will point out why this sort of a thing is even in the realm of possibilities in Mr. Modi's head. Because the last time a government went into someone's home and took away private property of somebody was November 8, 2016, demonetization. When Modi came on television and said, your money belonging to you, that you have kept in store, I'm taking that away tonight. It's not valid tomorrow. That is an attack on what's called private property. So it's completely ludicrous and bizarre and preposterous.
I get that point. When you do talk of redistribution, however, there have been a lot of views expressed, especially among the middle class, many upper caste supporters of Congress, who are alarmed at this talk of redistribution. And I get the point. You're saying that Mr. Modi does it too. But what do you have to say to the people who are alarmed by the Congress's Nyay Patra, where it's saying is going to be maybe even more aggressive than Mr. Modi when it comes to equity, when it comes to redistribution, which is in a way the Congress is planned, right? You're going to concentrate more on equity than Mr. Modi did. So what do you have to say to people who are alarmed by what they look at, what they assume is something like radical socialism or redistribution of wealth?
Shoaib, as someone who has worked in Wall Street, who's studied in a university in America that is arguably called the Mecca of capitalism, Wharton, it's quite laughable to even suggest something like this. I think first, let us all agree that we need a fairer, more just, and a more equal society. That's good for the the rich, that's good for the elites, and that is good for society. Second, to make a society more equal does not mean it's a zero-sum game. I don't have to make someone poorer to make somebody else richer. There's a fundamental flaw in this argument. I will just ask a simple counterfactual question. If the rich and the elite, as you say, that they're worried about what will happen, I will point to page 31 of the manifesto in the Congress Party's manifesto. There's a clear promise that people's income taxes will not rise, will be stable, there will be no new taxes. Please show me a similar categorical promise in the BJP's manifesto. Show that to me, and then I will accept. Next, the talk of redistribution through taxes generally in Western countries involves taxing the super rich at exorbitant rates. Zero mention of that in the Congress Party's manifesto. This is just stoking fear. Middle class, the elite, the rich, taxpayers. There's a promise on page 31. Hold us accountable. Hold us to account on that. So, redistribution is not a zero-sum game. I can get into the details of what that means and how that what that entails and how we would do it, especially in the economic sense, right? And if you would like that, I'm happy to do that right now.
I'm going to get back to you. I'm going to put a pin in that about expanding on what redistribution means. What I want you also to expand on is you're saying that you're not going to increase income tax. Your manifesto also says that you're going to have a single GST rate, which is probably going to decrease GST revenues. Yet you're also making an implicit promise of expanding welfare. How are you going to square the circle?
It's actually not that hard. There are two ideas and concepts in economics, in public economics. One is called the tax buoyancy. Okay. This famously what Reagan did, or what we call in economics the Laffer curve. Reducing tax rates, or like you said, single GST does not necessarily mean reducing tax revenues. It could actually be the opposite. Tax revenues can increase. Second is in terms of expanding the economy and expanding tax revenues. I want to point out a simple fact. For all the hullabaloo that we heard about formalization of the economy, GST reform, and all of these things, better tax collection, better tax administration, India's tax to GDP is exactly the same where it was 10 years ago. So, the tax-based tax revenues have not grown faster than the economy. And that is where the problem lies. We fix that, we have more than enough money to meet the expenditure, and I will also tell you, we will stick to the fiscal deficit target laid out under FRBM conditions. That's a guarantee again.
So, your manifesto actually mentions the rise of the billionaire Raj, which is a paper published by Piketty as well as other economists. So, and you also mentioned in your manifesto that you want to reduce inequality. So, explain to us, as you had earlier said, what are the nuts and bolts of this redistribution that the Congress is promising? Mr. Modi already actually has a fairly large welfare program, which has, whether we like it, whether the Congress likes it or not, has delivered him electoral benefits. What is the Congress going to do that is going to power charge this?
See, why is there inequality? I think that's the question nobody seems to be asking. Why? Why is there rampant inequality? And to be fair, I'm not saying it's just in India, it's across the world. I don't want to quibble over under whose tenure was inequality higher and all that. Let's all face it, we are moving more and more towards a more unequal world. Why? The reason is because of contemporary economic development paradigm automatically accumulates wealth. There is what in economics we call a problem in the capital-labor balance. And I'll give you a simple example for it. My GDP can grow. Usually in the 80s and the 70s and the 90s, it meant people's incomes will also grow. Roughly there was equal correlation. Now what has happened is GDP is growing, but people's incomes are not growing. The growth in GDP goes only to a few people. The rest are left behind. And that is where there is a capital-labor balance problem. This is true across the world. This is what's causing inequality. So, if For example, if we make, let's say, we put up 100 semiconductor manufacturing plants, our economy can grow, our GDP can grow. Does that really produce jobs and incomes to people? Even if you take direct and indirect and trickle down and all of that? No. No. But it takes a lot of capital. It doesn't take a lot of labor. Our proposal to bridge economic inequality is to fix the jobless growth problem. And that is why extensive emphasis, focus, and research has gone into specific concrete proposals for jobs and job creation. That is where we come to the right to apprenticeship. That is where we come to doubling mining as a share of GDP. And think about that, for a Congress party to state that in its manifesto. That is where we come to production-linked incentives to employment-linked incentives. That is where we come to filling 30 lakh government vacancies. That is where we categorically say in the manifesto, we will reject jobless growth. So the moment we focus on jobs and incomes and livelihoods, we're automatically bridging the gap between the rich and the poor. So we're not taking away from anybody, we are rebalancing, and that's what it is.
What's the Modi government doing wrong? Why does it have jobless growth right now?
Like I said, I think the focus has been on output, what we call in economic terms output, and across the world, right? That was the 1990s, what's called the Washington Consensus economic model, and that delivered results up to a certain point in time. We have very clearly said we need a new vision, economic vision. We call it the Nav Sankalp economic policy. We recognize that the 1991 reforms delivered what it was supposed to deliver in terms of growth and incomes. Now the time has come for us to rethink. The Modi government has not had the ability and the capacity and the vision to step back and think about this in real life. Otherwise, they would not be doing things such as cutting corporate tax rates indiscriminately, yet no private investment. Why is private investment as a share of GDP the lowest in the last 10 years in Modi's tenure?
Why is it? What do you think that? Why is the private sector not investing? Although they say everything is good, but they're not actually investing.
I always say don't listen to what they say, watch what they do.
Right.
And then this is a fact. Private investment is low. Okay.
So do they not trust the future of the Indian GDP, of the Indian economy?
No, I think there is a confidence and a trust problem, but the larger problem is the problem of monopolies and oligopolies.
Right.
The moment you have few businesses cornering all advantages in an economy, the rest of them will stay out. It is not a level playing field. They do not want to invest and take the risk. So, favoritism, cronyism, and monopolies and oligopolies is a big reason why private investment is down. The second, this may be counterintuitive. I will give you a data point. In the last 25 years, first 1999 to 2004 of Mr. Vajpayee, 2004 to 2014 of Dr. Manmohan Singh, 2014 to 2024 of Narendra Modi. If you take manufacturing as a share of GDP, it's the highest when a UPA government is there. It's low when Mr. Vajpayee is there, then it goes up, and then drops down again when Mr. Modi comes. Manufacturing. Why? In simple terms, manufacturing means I have to invest and put up a plant. I have to have people coming and working. I want to be assured that there will be no social unrest, that there will be harmony in society, that there will be policy stability, that there will be continuity. Counterintuitively, contrary to what most people think, social harmony is a very, very, very important factor in things such as manufacturing, and the data clearly shows it.
You brought up the point of oligopolies. You said the Washington Consensus led to a concentration of capital. I'm going to point you to another recent controversy where Mr. Sam Pitroda pointed to the existence of the inheritance tax in the US. It might not have been super factually correct on the details, but let's not get into that. When the Congress was attacked on this by the BJP, the Congress sort of jumped back almost as a reaction and said, "We're not going to do this. We're not going to promise this." The BJP has itself actually discussed this. Jansen has discussed this. Uh, what is so wrong in even thinking or discussing or debating an inheritance tax if these problems that you yourself have identified exist in the Indian economy?
See, first and foremost, the fact is it wasn't discussed or it is not in the manifesto. Okay, so that's a fact.
That's a fact. Fair enough. I'm with you on that. It's
Yeah.
a fact. It's not in the manifesto.
Yes. It's not there, and I can tell you also, as a member of the manifesto committee, Mr. Sampitroda was not consulted anyway for the manifesto discussions. So that is his personal view. Second, the stage of development that we are in, India is in, where I just mentioned how we're not in a zero-sum game. For us to grow equitably, and bridge inequality, we don't have to make somebody poor. This entire idea of taxing the super rich and inheritance tax and all of that stems from a zero-sum game mentality.
On the other hand, you're saying you're going to make the pie grow bigger.
Pie grow bigger, and I'm going to ensure more participation from here.
Right.
By focusing on jobs, by focusing on the labor market, and incentivizing industry to invest and create jobs. When I say employment-linked incentive, and the manifesto says employment-linked incentive, no one else has talked about this. We've all talked about production-linked incentives. We have put our foot forward and said, what does that mean? We want investment. We also want jobs. So we will incentivize you, Miss Businesswoman. We will incentivize you to create jobs. That's what we mean by making the pie grow. So inheritance tax in the Indian context is irrelevant for many reasons. Like I said, it's not a zero-sum game. I think the proceeds are going to be very minimal. It's not going to do much to our fiscal situation. And we're not in a state where we actually need everybody to continue to invest and grow. So that is not relevant for us.
Fair enough. Coming to your point about zero-sum game, I'm going to identify another thing that maybe some people from the middle class are a bit alarmed about. The Congress has spoken very strongly of a caste census. Your manifesto says it. You've spoken of lifting the 50% cap on reservations. A Congress slogan is "Jitni abadi utna haq." Your population will determine your rights, etc., etc. Now, this is a zero-sum game, right? If you break the 50% cap, that means there's going to be reservation quotas for a very large. There's going to be reservation quotas for a majority of jobs and maybe education seats in India, which is rare throughout the world. I can't think of many of the examples where this happens across the world. Do you see any pushback for this? Because this is radical politics.
Let me ask you an example. Let me ask you a question, counter question. Do you support the women's reservation bill?
Do I personally support? So I'm going to be right.
Do people support the women's reservation bill?
I think largely they do. Yeah.
All these people that you said are alarmed, to use your words, do they support the women's reservation bill?
But what's the relevance?
Yeah. What is the idea behind women's reservation? They constitute half the population.
Right.
It's only fair that we have proportional rewards, proportional benefits to what is half the population. The idea of proportional rewards is not some unique thing. We all accept it intuitively because it's in proportion to the number of people that there are. So the question is, if we know roughly, because we don't have a census yet, we don't know exactly, but we know roughly, OBCs, Dalits, SCs constitute nearly 70% of India's population. Why is it that their share in in the upper echelons of society, government bureaucrats, senior officers, in various jobs, why is it less than 10%? Why is that less than 10%? On the flip side, you take Narega, which is minimal wage labor. Only when you are in absolute distress, you go and do Narega work. Do you know 82% of Narega laborers are from OBC, SC, ST? So why? Why is it 82% in Narega and less than 10% in the upper echelons? Surely we can't make the argument that the 70% of the population does not have brains or merit, and only 30% have. That's a ludicrous argument, right?
Difficult to solve, right?
Yeah. So clearly, I don't think the philosophy of proportional rewards is that hard for people to understand. It's there in everybody, and everybody wants it because we all accept. On gender, we accept. It's the same principle. The question is, can we get there immediately? We cannot. Should we aspire to get there? Yes. Who will say no? We will absolutely have to aspire to get there. So today it's 50% reservation. By census, we will know that they are more than 70%.
So I get the logic to it, but again, do you see a political pushback from the middle class who are maybe benefiting from the current system disproportionately?
No, see, I think there will be a pushback if they think.
I mean, you must remember OBC reservation saw an immense pushback. That was the last time reservations were expanded. So, do you see anything similar happening now?
No, see, I think we have to first understand that any such change may sound. It sounds very logical when I explain it. It sounds like, okay, who would not want it? Right? But I understand the fears that can be stirred. It's important to ensure that there is a transition, that there is a smooth transition. I first want to correct you on one thing you said. You called it the caste census. It's not a caste census, it's a socio-economic caste census, which means we will know economic conditions of people regardless of their caste. So even within an upper caste, should the poor upper caste not be treated more favorably, given more opportunities than the rich upper caste? Yes. So I think the idea is.
I don't think as long as this idea of equity, there is also a space for a poor general category person.
Absolutely. That's why I keep saying it's a socio-economic caste census. It's called caste census colloquially in abbreviated form, but the technical term is SECC. So absolutely, the idea is to find out economic conditions of people, and then to help them, and that is why Mr. Rahul Gandhi calls it the X-ray of Indian society. He's not saying it's the X-ray of OBCs or Dalits or oppressed castes. It's the X-ray of Indian society.
In your manifesto, one of the things that actually struck me, you said that the private sector has to be the main engine of jobs. I'm going to marry that to what you just said, that there, proportionality with respect to economic benefits is on almost human common sense. So, do you think the Congress will also think of reservation in the private sector?
You mean
marrying these two together?
Corporates?
Yeah.
I think I just explained to you the idea of private property and how important it is. So the same logic applies here. I think when a business person puts her own money and invests and expands the business, it's wrong for the state to go in and tell her, except of course if it's a government entity where we could do reservations.
Isn't there a contradiction though? Because then, since such a large part of the economy, such a large part of the wealth is in private hands, and you have these historically dispossessed peoples who are not being able to enter into that. Because as bad as the situation is when it comes to backward caste and disadvantage in government service, if you look at boardrooms, it just doesn't exist.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example again using gender. Okay. Why is it that the Securities and Exchange Board of India, SEBI, has a rule that says so many members of the board should be women? Why? So that's not the government doing it. It's corporates, all the listed companies and their regulator coming up and saying we must do this. There are many corporates that have HR departments, if you go speak to, will say we need DEI. That is beneficial for the company. So I think the way to do that is not through a government diktat.
Right.
That's what I mean when I say
it has to emerge.
It has to emerge.
From the industry, that's what you're saying.
It has to emerge. They have to know the benefits of it. And second, maybe there'll be a bit of a nudge and a bit of a shaming to get them to do it. Right? What I meant was it can't be a government diktat to say that you must have this. That's an attack on private property.
I'm going to go back to where we started, Mr. Modi. A lot of your manifesto has been attacked for appeasing Muslims. Actually, when I read the manifesto, I actually found there was actually very little towards Muslims, other than platitudes, things like implementing the constitution which already exists. When it's well known that Muslims are, I think, one of the most, if you look at the Sacha report, maybe the most disadvantaged bloc within Indian society today. Why isn't the Congress putting more emphasis? Are you guys taking Muslim votes for granted?
I mean, don't they say beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder? So it depends on what each one reads from the manifesto and takes it. See, I think we call the manifesto Nyay Patra. I mean, it's about justice. Why label justice? I mean, we all know what it means when we say we need justice, we need an equitable, we need a fair society and an equality. So I think our intent, our philosophy is quite clear that we need a just society. To say that we have got to target a particular group, religious or caste, is then taking away the larger philosophy. When we say we are for justice and equitable, like I told you, like I gave you the example, there could be poor, disadvantaged people among the upper caste or among Hindus. There could be, there are of course many more poorer people among the minorities. So, as long as our objective is to be fair and equal to all that are disadvantaged and to remove their obstacles, I think it will automatically help those that are disadvantaged. So I don't think we should specifically call out one particular community or the other. I think that's for Mr. Modi to do.
Okay, I'm going to end with a little bit of a throwback. In 2019, the Congress came up with something called Nyaya, minimum income guarantee. You were also one of the major movers behind it. Where do you see the idea of minimum income going? Do you think it's still a powerful policy tool? I just don't want you to speak as a congressman. I just want you to also speak as just somebody who understands India and its economy. Do you think that will be a tool to battle for what is really a really poor country even till today?
Yeah, see, I think we have to understand this through the lens of safety nets. Okay, so if anything, COVID taught us the importance of safety nets. I've always said that had the country had something like a minimum income guarantee during COVID, we would not have been as badly hit and as worse off as we were. So it's the idea of a safety net that minimum income guarantee provides, and absolutely should a country like India have a safety net? Absolutely. Which is why we do have for women, heads of poor families, a minimum income guarantee in this manifesto too. Of course, it's been indexed to inflation and increased. The amount has been
increased. Could you unpack why it's for women? What are the benefits of that?
I think various research has shown that money in the hands or in the bank accounts of women tend to get spent more for family needs, for children, than it is for men. And this stems from research and empirical evidence throughout the world. And second, we all know that is generally the more disempowered half of the population. And so this is also about empowerment and rights for women. So certainly the idea of minimum income guarantee, along with, again, empowering women, is there in this manifesto too.
I'm going to jump off of the last thing that you said when you're talking of transferring cash, which has almost become a, a sort of common sense within India, I think everybody agrees on it. The Congress agrees on it, the BJP agrees on it, the Trinamool agrees on it, the DMK agrees, everybody agrees on it. Do you think that this move towards transferring cash, though, is diverting the attention of the Indian state from creating public goods like schools, hospitals, roads, which are in a way something that have to be done by the state? You can get money from other places. Do you think that's a bit of a prickly point? It's a bit of a fear. It's a bit of a negative.
It's a good question. It's certainly something that's debated very heavily among experts and scholars. Does that give a free pass for the government to shed its obligations to build some of the basic infrastructure, social infrastructure? Our belief is no. Like I said, we approach minimum income through the lens of safety net, right? It's just like Narega. Narega, I mean, the way conceptually is an unemployment insurance. If you don't have anything else, then you come and do Narega work because it gives you bare minimum wages and you have to toil in the sun, right? So that's what minimum income guarantee safety net is when we give cash. It is not in lieu of something else, right? And I will also say this, as a nation, for our economy, we must actually, one of our objectives should be to minimize demand for Narega. That should be our goal. Similarly, we must strive for a time when we don't have that many claimants for a minimum income guarantee program. And that should be our goal. But until then, we must have this safety net.
Thank you so much, Praveen. This was a fascinating discussion. If you like what you saw and you want to keep media free and independent in India, please go to Scroll.in/contribute and help Scroll do the journalism that we do. Thank you for watching Scroll Ideas.